Hallelujah. Thank you, Father, for this Shabbat and for your presence and for the truth of your word. And we thank you for the dominion and authority of the Melkhitzedek order in Yeshua the Messiah. Amen and amen. All right, we're going to get into this. I'm starting a new series, you guys. I don't know how far this will go. Might just be this part. I have no idea. But it's going to be based off of Matthew 24. So let me just give you a brief outline. Those of you that have the notes, you don't have this little short outline. I'm going to run through it really quick. But in Matthew 24, we have several areas of focus. And the first section is dealing with the Messiah departing the temple at this time. And he ends up declaring something regarding that temple system at that time, which I will address later. Not one stone will be left upon another. That was a prophetic sign of the system's collapse. He was prophesying it. Also in Matthew chapter 24, we have the end of the age and the priestly reign that is communicated in chapter 24, verse 3. We also have in the same chapter, we have deception and counterfeit priesthoods. We have false messiahs arise that are rooted in rebellion, reflecting Korah and what Korah had done. We have the Melkhitzedek order that is marked by heavenly calling, not by anyone's ambition. It is a decree from the throne of the Most High himself. We have a worldwide global upheaval and kingdom transition. We have wars, famines, earthquakes, which are the birth pangs of a new priestly order. Everything that we are seeing now, everything that will accelerate even worse, are all the birth pangs, the contractions for what? For the crowning of the body of Messiah after the order of Melchizedek. That's why we see these things happening as well. Also, we're going to see tribulation tests. It's going to test those who are faithful. Look to your neighbor and say, those who endure to the end shall be saved. Very important. We also have the good news of the kingdom that will be proclaimed, the Besorat HaMalchut, the kingdom message. We have the abomination of desolation, which is a very important section. All of it's important, but very important in that area because it's dealing with the intrusion into the set-apart place, which is the entire Temple Mount, not just a stone temple that was built, or Herod's temple that is there right now, which is also a reflection of the rebellion of Korah. Also, we see the shortening of days. I'm going to touch on something about time. I was telling Pastor Dave, he messed me up the other week when in his teaching, I don't know about anybody else, so much was given. That was probably one of the most powerful revelations that came through Pastor Dave, was when he connected. I'm still trying to connect this, but the way he connected the breath of life with time. I'm going to touch on something with that. And this just threw me for a whole loop. We also have false signs and true authority. Just because you see healings. You heard my wife praying about these kingdom things which belong to the kingdom. But just because you see flashy men and women on a stage taking up offerings to come to a conference for healings does not mean that the Spirit of the Most High is in that. Because there are lying signs and wonders as well, meaning there's miraculous things that can transpire. That does not mean that the Most High is in that. Because you have men like Pastor Dave, I've never been there, they've been to Africa, and they'll tell you which doctors can raise the dead, which doctors can make eyes appear, which doctors can do this. So that's not the litmus test of authenticity. The litmus test is this: have you come into covenant confession with the King? Are you in covenant with the King? So the test is coming. Don't be moved by signs and wonders. If you never see a sign and wonder in your life, that is not the evidence that the presence of the Father is not in your life. No, that's the opposite. The presence of Abba is in the life of those who have drawn near to the altar throne of our King and who are in covenant relationship and are living that covenant out. That's a sign that the Spirit is in you because you desire to do what is righteous in the eyes of the Father. We also have the coming of the Son of Man or the Son of Adam. We're going to see cosmic interruptions in the skies. Whether you believe in a dome or you believe in an expansive universe, I don't care. Whatever it is, we're going to see disruptions from the heavens again, just like in the days of Noah. It's coming. Also, something I will address in one of the parts of whatever amount of parts this series will be, we will wind up revisiting, and I'm going to say this in confidence because of what is written, not because of what I think I know at all, but we are going to destroy this pre-trib rapture ideology on a whole different level one of these other times coming up. Also, within chapter 24, we see the fig tree in the final generation and a warning about being watchful and being ready. Look to your neighbor and say, we must be watchful and we must be ready. Not be in fear by what we see, being able to see what's going on without fear as a watchman, knowing that these things are being distributed upon the earth because of the convulsions. And this earth, this world is pregnant. And we see that something is going to crown, and that's called the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of Elohim is going to be crowning. And that's why we see the earth convulsing. That's what's happening. The earth is convulsing. Look at China right now. All their buildings are collapsing. The ground is cracking up. There's like this heat wave everywhere. The earth is convulsing. You know why? Because the earth is disgusted with what has happened upon it. You see, the Creator, no matter what man does, the Creator will use the elements of within the earth. He will use the wind, He will use the fire, He will use the water, He will use the shaking of earthquakes to get the attention of everyone on planet Earth, especially the elite, letting them know you are really not in control. You are not in control. Matthew 24 is one of the most powerful chapters regarding the end of days. And we're going to try and dig some things out in this introduction today. So Matthew 24 is a prophetic priestly blueprint. It also is a reflection of the Melkhitzedek order that is not removed from the world but rises up through tribulation. We've seen nothing yet. We haven't seen anything yet. Wait until the two witnesses come. We're going to see. They're not going to look like what we've expected. Why? Because in this modern world, we're so used to seeing collared shirts and hats and nice clothes here and there. When we see these two witnesses, they will not look like what we think. They are going to portray exactly what they have been anointed for. And it is to bring a judgment in the land. We also are going to reflect on Daniel chapter 7, verse 13 to 14, where the Son of Man receives the kingdom. Look to your neighbor and say, the kingdoms of this world have become the kingdom of our Messiah who belongs to Elohim himself. These are the kingdoms of this world. All the kingdoms of this world are going to bow to the feet of the Messiah, Yeshua. Why? Because he is the royal high priest of war. He came doing the priestly work as a sacrifice. The next time he comes, he's coming with full out onslaught against the kingdom of darkness, which is Babylon. Babylon is falling. You guys should have been excited because a lot of you that might be in debt in your mind and in your heart is because of a Babylonian system. Here's a part of Babylon that is going to fall, what we see happening in this country. There's a civil war in this country on multiple levels. It's already happening. We're going to look at highlights from Revelation 1:6, 5, 9 to 10, where we are made kings and priests. No Levitical order was ever declared to be a royal order or one that contained kings and priests aside from the tribe of Judah where kings would come forth from. But the entire nation, no. Not one tribe was that. Not the priesthood of the former time. But in Messiah, it changes. Hebrews chapter 7, we also see the new priesthood after the order of Melkhitzedek. So that's just a brief little outline of what we're about to dive into. Today's title is The Melkhitzedek Ascends, Unmasking Mystery Babylon's Final Hour. That's what Matthew 24 is about. Unmasking mystery. Look at Babylon is a mystery. Great is the mystery of godliness. That's the opposite of Babylon. And it is up to the kings, after the order of Melchizedek, to unearth, if I could say that, to be like an archaeologist spiritually and unearth the mysteries of Elohim. But the mysteries of Babylon, listen to what I'm saying, they're already being seen today behind the pulpits of America. That's Mystery Babylon. Most of these, I would say all mega churches, I'm going to step out and say this, all mega churches are a mixture. That's called Babel. In Hebrew, it's Babylon. This is being exposed. Daniel chapter 7, verse 9 to 10 says something so powerful. The thrones were set in place. And the Ancient of Days, so there's thrones in heaven. There's multiple myriads of thrones in heaven. But there's one superior throne, and it belongs to the Ancient of Days. We're going to share some powerful things today. And the Ancient of Days took his seat. These words alone are frightening. The court sat, and the books were opened. Can you guys visualize? That is so mind-blowing to me. That all these thrones, powerful entities we can't even put a name to. There's angelic beings, there's cherubim, there's seraphim, there's all these different types of beings, powerful beings that are subject to the Ancient of Days. So this courtroom is not silent. Judgment is proceeding, according to Daniel's prophecy, what he's being shown. Babylon's dominion is about to be on trial. A transfer of authority is about to be underway. And from the beast systems of the earth to the saints, the righteous ones of the Most High, is the transfer going to take place. But this transference, listen, can only occur through the superior Melchizedek order. I'm a promoter of the priesthood of Messiah. It can only come through that which merges kingdom and priesthood. This is why the rabbis in Israel, Jerusalem, even the Hasidic rabbis cannot put together that the kingdom and the priesthood come together in Mashiach. There's never going to be a separation. It comes together. And this is one of the downfalls of accepting this truth because of rabbinic ideology, and that's a whole nother subject. So let's look at this. Melchizedek, in Hebrew, Melkhitzedek, King of Righteousness, Mystery Babylon, Bavel Sod. I found this very interesting. I said, well, I wonder what the numerical difference between these two are. I know what the difference of the two are, but what is the numerical difference within these Hebrew characters? Because it's going to pull out some other things. Well, the numerical difference gives us a number 193, which is related to something very unique found in found in Scripture as well as in the writings of Ezekiel. So this same 193, is the same for a Hebrew word defining the actual veil that was torn when Yeshua gave up his own life on the altar, which was the crossbeam, as well as the veils that were placed over idolatrous statues that Ezekiel recorded. So the numerical difference between the priesthood of Messiah and Mystery Babylon reflects the veil being torn and a cover-up that Ezekiel reveals. I think that's interesting to me. And the Hebrew word is mispachah, not mishpachah. Mispachah, totally different word, okay? So Ezekiel 13 says this. Let's break this down. And you, son of man, set your face against the daughters of your people who prophesy out of their own heart. Listen up, Western Church. And prophesy against them and say, so says the Master Yorevave. Woe to those sewing amulets to all joints of my hands and make long veils mispacha for the head of every stature, to hunt souls. Read it for yourself, Ezekiel 13:18. Will you hunt the souls of my people, and will you save alive the souls for yourselves? So what Ezekiel is saying, that there's a time that was coming in the future, from the moment he was writing this, that soul trafficking will be at an all-time high. And we're seeing this today, right now. It's all part of the same game. We see this happening on multiple levels today. And let me give you one that everyone is familiar with now. Yes, the deportation is also playing its role to the conditioning of the mind in preparation for an acceleration into soul trafficking. Mark these words and just watch this. It's unfolding. You have to soften and condition the minds of the masses first, then unleash hell on them. This is happening right now, everywhere. In Somalia, they're murdering Christians and just brutally butchering them, children too. All hell is being unleashed. In Pakistan, we have IJAZ, underground ministry. Stuff is happening over there. All hell's being unleashed upon those who claim to be believers. So let's read some verses here in Matthew 24, verse 1, and Daniel and Revelation. Let's get into this. And Yeshua went out, verse 1, Matthew 24. He went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him, showing him the buildings of the temple. We broke this down before. That's the word used in the text, Antonia Fortress, which is Herod, the Edomite temple system. And Yeshua said to them, do you not see all of these things? Truly I say to you, there shall not be one left here, not one stone left on another that shall not be cast down. Daniel 9, 26 and 27, and after 62 weeks the Messiah shall be cut off, but not for himself, and the people of the ruler who shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. Did that happen in 70 AD? And the end of it shall be with the flood, and ruins are determined until the end shall be war. And he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the offering to cease. And on a corner of the altar, desolating abominations. How many people are going to go up to Jerusalem at this altar? Because the prophets already prophesied. There will be abominations at that altar. I believe, was it a week or so ago, they actually sacrificed a red heifer. It had 2 black hairs from what they counted, but they wanted to do a rehearsal. Don't be fooled by what's coming. These are upfront, or I should say, these are preparations. These are foreshocks of what's getting ready to transpire in Jerusalem. That's what it is. Get ready. Revelation 11. And a reed like a rod was given to me, and the angel stood saying, rise up and measure the temple of Elohim and the altar. The temple of Elohim and the altar, that's not what we see in Jerusalem. That's not the temple of Elohim. That's Herod's remains and some other stuff. But measure the temple of Elohim and the altar, and those who worship in it, but leave out the court which is outside the temple, and do not measure it, for it was given to the nations, and they will trample the holy city for 42 months or 3.5 years. So the authority of Yeshua in Matthew 24 is not that of a mere seer. Listen, trying to decode political tremors. That's not, it's beyond that. It is the oracular voice of the enthroned Melkhitzedek, whose one sacrifice already rendered every single altar obsolete, whose priestly benediction, will close history. Daniel's cryptic usage of this common Hebrew word yashbit for ceasing, which does mean to cause something to cease, but watch this, finds its resolution here. The beast may suspend or counterfeit sacrifices, but the high priest has eternally already, look to your neighbor, get ready to shout, has secured our atonement. It's already secured. Therefore what? Do not fear a third temple crisis more than you trust in the eternal sanctuary of our royal high priest, Yeshua the Messiah, HaMashiach. Measure every single end-time claim against the finished work and indestructible priesthood of Yeshua. Live as a kingdom of priests, guarding the covenant, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom to the last generation. Then the priestly king will step back onto the mount. splitting skies instead of veils, and crowning his covenant people with the glory which creation has been groaning for. Heaven and earth will pass away, the Messiah says, but my words will never pass away. That's the words and declaration of our royal high priest. We can trust him because his character is flawless. The integrity of his word is matchless. And his name is directly attached to his word. He cannot deny himself. Every promise he promised will come to pass. Why? He cannot go against his own word. He can't. The context finds its place in Matthew 23 first, when Yeshua ends his discourse with a warning. And then we shift into Matthew chapter 24, which bears the record of the impending catastrophic unleashing of heaven's judgments upon the kingdom of darkness, which is Babylon. Wherever anything is mixed, listen to what I'm about to say. Wherever anything is mixed, that is mystery Babylon. I don't care how it looks or how it sounds. Wherever anything is mixing righteous things with unrighteous things, that's mystery Babylon, no matter how you slice it. Yeshua went out and departed from the temple, Matthew 24:1 says. Remember, we're just doing an introduction today. This departure is absolutely prophetic. For him, for the scriptures to record, for Matthew to record him departing the temple, he was making a political statement. This physical temple, the seat of the Levitical system that was corrupted according to Ezekiel chapter 8, is now being vacated of its corrupted residual remains from the time Ezekiel prophesied in chapter 8 of his writings. That's what's happening. The transfer of dominion in Daniel 7:14 isn't automatic. It is judicially decreed because the Son of Man is presented before the Ancient of Days and our Mashiach is vindicated. So it's judicially decreed. That means it's decreed in the heavens first, and then the unfolding and manifestation of it is about to happen. To him was given dominion and esteem and a reign that all people, nations, and languages will bow and serve him. That's our Messiah. So this presentation isn't or is the ancient enthronement rite. It represents this, where kings were confirmed not by voting, not by force, but by legal declaration before the divine council. Yeshua's presentation post-resurrection mirrors Psalm 2, Hebrews 1, and Revelation 5, which are all records of this. And only the one who is both high priest and king can open the scrolls and execute judgment, which we touched on, I forget when we did that, Revelation chapter 5. Yeshua, the embodiment of the superior order, the Melkhitzedek priesthood, he walks away from the fading, mixed, and corrupted priesthood of that very time, signaling the transfer of authority and dominion. He says in verse 2, not one stone shall be left upon another. This is legal language. In ancient Near Eastern covenants, the destruction of a temple symbolized the voiding of a legal order. You can look at this in this site that I saw, the Common Temple Ideology of the Ancient Near East Religious Studies Center. They break that down. It's pretty fascinating. And Yeshua is declaring that the Levitical contract is being dissolved, and with it, the temple jurisdiction is now revoked. This is heavy stuff that's being said. Also, the very presence of Yah was absent from that temple system. There was no presence in there. It was a soulless structure, absent of the divine presence of the Most High. And there's no comparisons. Look to your neighbor. There's no comparison of priesthoods. The earthly priest walked out of the holy place on Yom HaKippurim, declaring the once a year temporary covering. Yeshua walks out of Herod's temple declaring that it was desolate. There's no way you can even have a temporary covering on Yom Kippur from that place. Why? It was a harlot. You're going to bring blood from there. Please forgive me if this is too upfront and too raw. If the priest were to bring stuff out from there, it's like bringing the garments of a nidah state when it's over. There's no covering for that. I know it's kind of strong, but it's the truth. Atonement blood was sprinkled on a golden mercy seat, signifying that a temporary reprieve was sanctioned. And a couple months later, on the high priest's own blood his own blood would be sprinkled on a wooden crossbeam, the superior altar throne on earth. We have a contrast. We have the Aaronic priesthood that could only cover sins temporarily. The Melkhitzedek priest king, according to John 1:29, out of the mouth of John the Baptist, who was the rightful Aaronic priest, high priest of that time, he says that this one comes to take away sin, not temporarily cover it. Therefore, every syllable of Matthew 24, every single word flows from one who already surpasses every altar, who surpasses every veil, and who's superior to every and any sacrifice. The prophetic discourse is therefore judicial, priestly, and royal all at the same time. So the Olivet Discourse in Matthew 24 isn't a loose collage of ominous sayings. It's a carefully stepped ascent, one tier at a time, each tier intensifying the next until it erupts into an open revelation of the king priest who commands every dimension of created reality. Its macro structure can be pictured as a 5-paneled fresco. That's what I have here. I'm going to show you. Well, you guys won't see it. You'll hear it. Read left to right, what I'm going to highlight here. When read left to right, you'll watch history actually contract like a womb in labor. If you go from left to right, from the beginning this way, you're going to see the contractions building up like a woman in labor. Read right to left, and you watch actual time. Listen, in its prophetic unraveling, retract back into time as time itself experiences the power of restoration also. That's a mouthful right there. Not only is creation being restored, not only will man be restored, time will be restored and be placed right back in the bosom of eternity where it came from. So panel A, we have the first contractions in Greek. It's called odinai, birth pains, which is the prophet's technical term in Isaiah 13:8-26 and Jeremiah 22 for the agonizing but purposeful convulsions that precede the coming day of the Most High. Matthew strings together deceptive messiahs in chapter 24, international upheavals that we see actually emerging in our day today, seismic and cosmic disturbances, famines, pandemics, persecutions, and a worldwide proclamation of the good news of his kingdom message all happening at the same time. These are not random crises. They are synchronized pulses of one great prophetic nativity that ushers in these contractions of chaos that reveal the crowning of the nation that is made of kings and priests. You should be excited about that because it's talking about you. The worldwide witness, or the good news of the kingdom, frames the labor pains with absolute hope, even though it don't seem like it. The kingdom's new creation is gestating and approaching the crowning stage. Just ask any woman, our daughter, this is so powerful for us, me and my wife, because our youngest daughter is due any moment. And here I am talking about the birth pangs of the end of days. So for us, it's just very personal for us and prophetic for us all at the same time. We're so excited. They're not just these are not all random. These are brought forth to reveal the kings and priests of the Messiah. The worldwide witness, as I just mentioned as well, frames all of these labor pains with great hope, even though it doesn't seem like that. The kingdom's new creation, like I said, is gestating and approaching the crowning stage. The contractions can be felt everywhere. Let me give you some of them today. It can be felt in the borders of countries. You see, what I'm seeing is on the spiritual part of it. Don't get me wrong, borders are borders, I get it. But I see that people are not trying to come to America. People are not trying to leave imprisoned nations. They're seeking the kingdom of heaven. They just don't know how to connect it. They're trying to run to America as if America's the great hope. No, this country's going to go down. So in all reality, the people that are crossing and all this stuff, I get it with the murderers, these wicked guys, they need to be dealt with. But those who are sincere, my grandmother came here illegally. She's not here anymore, so no one can go and deport her. She came from Jalisco, Mexico. But this is a sign of not something of freedom for temporary, even though that's looked at. The spirit of man knows something is happening. Something's happening. It's beyond just some of these types of things. We see this in the borders, in the economy, in the churches, in religious settings, in your jobs, in the housing and real estate world, in your pocketbooks, and now the threat of nuclear war, and there's more and more. These birth pains are here, and they are growing in strength. Panel B, I have 5 of them. We have the abomination and the great tribulation. Yeshua cites Daniel's abomination that makes desolation. Telescoping Antiochus IV, the Roman standards of AD 70. And an ultimate eschatological desecration into a single prophetic lens. And we have the thlipsis megale in Greek, the great tribulation, which is unparalleled distress since the beginning of the world, according to the words of Messiah. Labor pains are now full contractions. Time is in a free fall, and survival itself is for the sake of the elect. We're going to touch on something really deep here. Geography also collapses. Judea gives way to the mountains, and an exodus-like flight in which covenant people are delivered by a divine move of the shortening of days. This is just an outline. We're not getting into every single detail. We're going to break this down later. Panel C, we have false messiahs that multiply exactly when the true Mashiach is poised to appear. We see this happening rapidly now. The name Yeshua chooses in Greek parousia, which invokes both imperial arrival and divine epiphany, all at the same time. Creation responds as in a celestial theophany. The sun darkens, according to Matthew 24. The moon refuses to reflect the light of the sun. The stars fall. That's even recorded in Joel 2 and Isaiah 13. The Creator's calendar emerges in the midst of this. The Maker reaches into his own artwork and turns down the house lights. I got a little funny here. Before center stage is set ablaze, he turns on the lights in this world for a season. Angels are dispatched to the 4 winds, a Daniel 7 courtroom scene now carried out on a universal canvas. The Son of Man exercises the prerogative of the Ancient of Days, gathering his elect as spoils of finished war. Look to your neighbor and say, thank you for salvation. Panel D, we have the fig tree, which represents Israel's seasonal clock. Tender shoots mean summer harvest. Likewise, converging signs certify that the kingdom harvest is at hand. The Noah parallel from Matthew 24 heightens the contrast. Ordinary life, we won't get into the giant thing right now. That's a whole other subject, but I want to keep it just simple here for a minute. Ordinary life, eating, drinking, and marrying, something that was normal. We know what was going on back there in Genesis 6, though. Blinds a self-absorbed generation to the rising waters of judgment. If we're so focused on the worldly things, we can actually miss a warning. We see that in the days of Noah. We see this today with iPhones and Androids. They set us up for artificial takeover again, just like the Genesis 11 Tower of Babel event. There's that Babel again. It's here one last time. Say, it's here one last time. It's here. As one family was lifted above the flood, so the remnant will be lifted in the Son's appearing. And no, look to your neighbor and say, no. There is no pre-trib rapture escapism. Look to your neighbor and say, you're going to see the fire. Say it with a smile. You know why we could smile as believer with fire? Because there'll always be the fourth one in there. Right? You don't want to be alone. Send me to the fire. And you're looking in there. There ain't nobody in there. Hold on a second. You go first. Let me know how hot it is when you get out. We have a dual mystery that unfolds. Birth, I'm just using terms, I don't want to lose nobody, and flood. Creation and judgment intertwined. The very waters that drowned a corrupt world became the womb of the rebirth of a new one. Wherever there's judgment, it's really behind that judgment is the renewal of something. The very waters that drowned that corrupt became a womb of rebirth. And what judged the old gave breath to the new. So in the paradox of the divine justice, the flood is not merely an end of everything, but a beginning that is cloaked in the garment of chaos, where death delivers renewal because it has no choice, and judgment births a remnant. This blows my mind. You ready? Death is going to be humbled before it's destroyed. Let me tell you how. Revelation records it. Death made claim, but it will have to cough up those who are in Messiah and watch all of us, if we come forth from the graves, walk right into eternal life in the face of death, and then death will be cast into the lake of fire. So death will be humbled first and then destroyed by just a spoken word. That's your life today. The life you lived at one time, death was in that. But when you said yes to the Messiah, you stepped out of that death scene and you entered into a time of eternal life. You embarrassed what death was trying to make a claim to, which was your life. You embarrassed death, saying, you had me strung out on drugs and alcohol, gang violence, and evil and wicked. But guess what? I've turned from that, and you have no more claim over my life now. Panel E. Matthew 24:42 says this, watch then, for you do not know in what hour your master comes. Look to your neighbor and say, we got to watch. Watch is temple language. The verb of the Levitical night guards. It's used in 1 Chronicles 9:27 and Psalm 134. Yeshua recasts disciples as end-time guardian priests after the order of Melkhitzedek, whose sleepless vigilance keeps the sanctuary light burning. That's why you have to keep the fire on your altar burning all the time. Two servant parables, faithful versus evil stewards, that unveil the domestic stakes, which are what? Stewarships of time, resources, and fellow servants that will be weighed on the same scales to measure true loyalty. We have the negligence, which is not mere sloth, it is treason. Listen, please. I'm speaking to me first. If we procrastinate and we are negligent with our responsibilities as believers, it's borderline almost committing treason against the king. No, it's not. Okay, remember the talents. One was given talents and did nothing with them. What happened to them? What we have been given, we are responsible for. Every generation is giving something. That generation, when it came to the things of the Most High, they were responsible with what they were given at that time. They might not have known all the truth about the Torah and the covenant on this side over here, but they were responsible with what they were given at that time. That's why you're here right now. Because someone was responsible. All they knew was Jesus Christ, but they were responsible, and it brought you to where you are now. Unless you were raised in the Torah. I wasn't raised in anything religious. Let's look at some threads here time, space, and sacrifice, because it's all within Matthew 24. Everything I'm sharing today is all in Matthew 24. The king who commands chronology. Yeshua reaches across this scroll of time with divine authority, and he's grasping the prophetic thread of Daniel that was written some 6 centuries earlier. So when Yeshua's speaking in Matthew 24, he's reaching back in time and grabbing the words that he gave himself to Daniel the prophet and bringing them up to date in the writings of Matthew 24. Threading it through the destruction of the second temple in 70 of the Common Era and weaving it seamlessly into the unveiling of the final apocalypse. And these are not separate events, but one living, breathing, prophetic continuum, braided by the voice of the eternal high priest in Matthew 24. And when he declares the shortening of days, he's not predicting time. Look at me, please. He's not trying to predict anything. He is governing time. That's powerful for me. He's not predicting when events will happen. The Messiah is literally governing time. For he's getting time and he's shortening time. He's governing that because time knows this is our Creator. And keep in mind that when Adam fell, this is just my perspective on this. I'm digging into something, like I said, because of Pastor Dave over there. Somebody said the other week, I'm in a vein with something this is way out there, boy. Someone say, there ain't no way, boy. Think about this. From my research, just me so far, when Adam fell, time fell with him. When Adam began to experience entropy and death, so did time and all of creation because time was in him. Now time regulated that the breath of life would be limited within fallen man. Time itself bows to the kingship of Messiah. Chronos is no longer neutral. It is bent, altered, and compressed by the sovereign hand of the one who stands above time. This is the dominion of the Melkhitzedek king over chronology itself. Number 2, space. From the hills of Judea to the reaches of the 4 winds, Yeshua expands the battlefield. He expands space. Everything he expands, he shortens time because he's the governor of it. And now he expands sacred space. Why? He needs room to whip some butt. There's so much rebellion. He's like, I need more space to whip some booty here. What begins as a localized siege unfolds into a worldwide collapse and climaxes in celestial convulsions everywhere. Geography bends into cosmography as even the calendar of our Creator begins to breathe and come to life in the life of the kingdom again. The king priest doesn't merely reign over a patch of earth, you guys. His jurisdiction spans both soil and stars in the heavens that we can't even imagine. The earthquakes, sun darkens, and the powers of heaven that are shaken, Matthew 24:29, because the cosmos recognizes its rightful ruler and creator is not having games anymore. Not that he ever did. His priestly scepter stretches not just across borders, but across all of creation, seen and unseen, declaring his unchallenged dominion from the dust of Jerusalem to the edges of the universe. We serve the matchless and all-powerful King of Kings, you guys. Do you believe that? Give him a big shout if you do. Number 3, sacrifice, which is the transfer of the covenant mantle. That's why the sacrifice was given, to transfer, not just atone to purchase back, but to be able to lawfully transfer authority and dominion from the head to the body. It starts in the mind, right? And then the body, whatever the mind says, the body's going to do. You can't go and say, I'm going to walk this way while my mind goes that way. It's not going to work. Where your mind is, what your mind is telling your body to do, that your body's going to do it. Now, those of you that are arguing with yourself, with your mind, like, no, I'm not doing that today. No, you can go ahead and go that way. I'm going this way. Then we're going to have to pray for deliverance because there's something else there. But listen, when Yeshua prophesies the cessation of the temple offerings, which in Hebrew the korbanot, it's simply the end of a ritual. It is the sounding of a covenantal trumpet declaring the restoration power of the royal high priest of war. The Levitical priesthood, bound by time and tethered to an earthly altar, is being eclipsed by the greater order now. And remember, Aaron and his sons, they were actually handpicked by the Most High Yah himself to hold fast as what? As the schoolmaster system until when? Until Shiloh would transpire, until the Messiah would come, until the obedience of the people would be laid at the feet of Messiah. A divine exchange is underway. The lesser yields to the greater. The shadow gives way to the substance. The blood of bulls and goats is silenced as the eternal priest, after the order of Melkhitzedek, ascends to the altar that is not made with the hands of men, offering himself once and for all, according to Hebrews 7, verse 11 to 17. And this isn't just a shift in priesthood, it's more than that. It is a heavenly enthronement. Where the Messiah's at reflects us. Did you know that? That's why the writer of Ephesians says that we are seated in heavenly places. That's a definite. That means we have a place in the kingdom right now. You should shout for that because you have a place. I see my spot. The covenantal torch is passed, and the Melchizedek priesthood arises in a irreversible supremacy. It cannot be reversed. The discord functions like a forensic light that separates two communities occupying the same historical space, which is this. The kingdom of light disciples read the contractions. Listen to what I'm saying. The kingdom of light sons and daughters, disciples, we read the contractions. We flee from idolatry. We keep vigilant. And we steward each other as accountable stewards, keeping each other accountable. Why? We've got covenant people who have to stay close so the enemy don't come in. Like my wife says, where we all have our backs, where eyes, we have to have each other's backs in the kingdom. Do you believe that? There's some out there saying, I got your back all right. I have a lot of knife wounds in my back, boy. The other side is the kingdom of darkness. Those are dwellers, like tumbleweeds. You see the tumbleweeds out there? They're numb. They're dwellers. They numb themselves with routine, like Martha did. They bow to counterfeit saviors. They scoff at all the events that are transpiring, not realizing they are laboring toward their own extinction. Someone say past, present, and future fulfillments. The past, Jerusalem's destruction in 70 of the Common Era, vindicated Yeshua's oracle and proved he is the Son of Man the prophet Daniel spoke of. The present age, every war, earthquake, and worldwide contagion reminds the kingdom of believers that the womb of creation is still contracting. See, we blame the devil for everything. The world is contracting. Why? You're about to see who you were always intended to be in Messiah. The future, a final abomination, a climactic unveiling, and an irreversible separation awaits history's terminal hour. Why the structure matters, someone might ask. Recognizing Matthew's 5-panel design prevents reductionism. Follow me with this. It guards against something that's out there I dealt with a few weeks ago, preterism. It's just weird. Everything happened in 70 AD, and now it's just, hey. No, that's a lie from hell. It guards against an exclusively preterist reading that locks the text in AD 70. It curbs a purely futurist reading that forgets the discourse's first century transaction. It anchors pastoral response. Disciples are not called to date-setting schemes, but to do something, which is this: they're called to priestly vigilance, ethical stewardship, and fearless proclamation, confident that the Melkhitzedek priest is master over the calendar, over the cosmos, and over the covenant. In short, Matthew 24 is a prophetic symphony in 5 movements, each crescendo announcing the irreversible triumph of the Son of Man, who is our King. Its cadence divides light from darkness, summons the kingdom of light to stand watch as the world's midnight, and assures her that the dawn of the day is not hypothetical, it's on schedule. It's on schedule, guys. That's why we have to keep time. I did a teaching years ago. I said, are you a master of time, or has time become your master? I got to find that and do that all over again. It was so profound what just was dropped in my spirit. I could not take credit for that. Let's talk about the breath of time. Let's highlight a thought that came to me a week ago from writing this, regarding the breath of lives and time itself. Let me read the verse. Then Yahweh Elohim formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of lives, nishmat chaim. And then man became a speaking soul, a speaking spirit, a living soul. To be alive means you can speak. To be enslaved and not being allowed to speak is the taskmaster over you is declaring you dead. That's why the courts are like they are. Sit down and shut up. They're declaring you dead. No objection. I'm alive. I don't rise because someone in a Green Reaper wardrobe comes out. No, I am one who's seated in Messiah and secure in him. The word nishmat in Hebrew means breath. It's derived from neshama, which is the sacred part of our soul. It's linked to neshima, which is respiration. So every breath is a rhythmic cycle, echoing divine time in the form of the breath. I told you messed me up with this. Chaim, lives, which is plural, signaling a multi-dimensional life, which is spiritual, physical, and prophetic. This insight became the conduit for Adam's communication of time and the creative order. When Adam named the animals or called them, time was deposited within them as well. This is why during the flood event, every living thing that had the breath of life, time in it, was now subject to death. Death came through the doorway of sin, and now time would walk side by side with fallen man. Time would experience a sense of death as the days, weeks, and months, and years, and millennia would approach. Time was not merely given to Adam, it was breathed into him, not as a sterile chronology, but as a sacred rhythm of Moedim, heaven's appointed cycles embedded into this very being, Adam. His pulse was to echo the cadence of eternity. His breath was to harmonize with the divine calendar of covenant. Adam was not just a living soul, he was a living clock, set by the eternal architect to govern creation according to the rhythms of heaven. Think about this. Into his nostrils was infused not just with air, if I could say that, but the breath of lives. That's different. When we breathe, we're not breathing the breath of lives. We only have a portion of that. Adam, when he breathed, imagine every man and woman that had ever been on the earth, that will ever be on the earth, all breathe at the same time. That's what Adam's breath was. It's a multi-dimensional impartation. With it came the instrument of time's life force. I was trying to figure out what words to use here. Adam was heaven's steward of sacred time, ordained to govern the cycles of life, light, and dominion with holiness and wisdom. But when Adam transgressed and ate of the forbidden tree, sin cracked open the door to death. Through the breach, not only did death enter, entropy invaded time itself now. The harmony fractured, the divine rhythms were corrupted. What once flowed in an unbroken alignment with the throne now began to decay. Time itself began to die in a sense. This is no mere metaphor. Why? For the first time in all creation, time experienced entropy. Not simply the aging of bodies, but here's what time experienced. Time didn't experience what we feel in our bodies. What time is experienced because of the fall of man is the unraveling of a divine order. That's what time's experiencing now. Man's experienced decay, the decay entropy part of time. Now time has to experience the unraveling of a divine order that had been forfeited over for a moment of sin. How many today will forfeit your entire life over for a temporary booze and sinful act in your life? You don't want to unravel your destiny with an action right here, right now. Time is experiencing the unraveling of the divine order, and time is keeping a record of this divine order being unraveled because of the fall of man. The sacred was made vulnerable, the eternal cadence interrupted, and there is the sobering thought: who has spoken this? That the breath of life was also the breath of time. I'm telling you, it's messed me up. And that Adam, in breaking divine alignment, fractured not just his soul, but the very fabric of sacred time. This mystery now calls us to realign, to return to the breath, to walk in the rhythm of the throne of heaven once more. So when Adam fell, time fell with him. No longer was time the loyal servant of eternity. And what are we seeing in Matthew 24? The timetable of things. Time is revealed. Time is being brought, is summoned forward by the Messiah, saying, I need you to regulate each and every one of the events now. I'm going to shorten your authority for the sake of the elect, but you are designed to regulate these categories of the great tribulation, leading up to my return and my reign here on the earth. Time was no longer a loyal servant of eternity now. It became a mourner, walking behind fallen man like a shadow tethered to death. Time, once a river flowing from the breath of Elohim, now became a veiled force, unseen. I believe Adam could see time. That's my take on it. He could see time every time he breathed. He could see what this was. I know that's far-fetched, but that's just my imagination. I believe he could see. There's nothing that was deposited in Adam that he could not see. Notice that the Father put the breath of life in him, but he told Adam, you go and identify all my creation now. You deposit. Go make your deposit. It's time, Adam. Make a deposit. Breathe into them a deposit of time. Our Creator's sovereign and matchless. It can only be glimpsed when the breath of life moves within creation. For apart from that breath, time hides behind a shroud of decay now. This is why in Genesis we read of men who lived for centuries. Why? Because time had not yet learned the language of death. It was just introduced to it. Time was introduced to the fall of man, not by choice, but by man's choice. But when Adam tasted mortality, time itself was cursed to die slowly alongside with man. From that moment, every heartbeat, every season, every generation became part of time's funeral procession. Everything in creation, every plant, beast, and star was assigned a timetable of death. For death entered not just man, but the very framework and fabric of all creation. Is this too much for you guys? And so creation groans, not for mere deliverance, but for the sons of Elohim to be revealed. Why? Because the true sons of Elohim are covenant keepers, calendar keepers, guardians of time. Those are the sons and daughters that the earth is looking for. It's not looking for the world. It's looking for those who have come into this covenant relationship that are being responsible stewards over these sacred things. And so creation groans, not for the mere deliverance, but for the sons of Elohim to be revealed. Because it is Elohim. Why not the sons of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh? Why the sons of Elohim? Why not that? Because it is Elohim, the Creator, who speaks life into existence. It's Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh that sustains that life. That's why you don't see Elohim attached to any blood animal sacrifice, not one time. It's always Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. Why? Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh is the sustainer of covenant life. Elohim is the creator. How many gods are you talking about? One. There's only one. Yahweh sustains all life, but it's Elohim's creative power that recalibrates time, resurrects with intention, and restores the original blueprint of everything. Creation recognizes its Redeemer, not just in words, but in the unveiled glory of those who carry the breath once again. When the sons of Elohim arise and come forth, creation does not merely rejoice, it remembers you. You guys awake today? Okay, I'm just making sure. I just said something that's a blessing for you. Let me read that again. Look at this. When the sons of Elohim come forth, creation doesn't just rejoice over you. I'm talking to you. It remembers you. Imagine that. The Garden of Eden. When you come to Messiah, Eden remembers who you are. It's a blessing to me. That brought tears to me when I was putting this together. Like, you remember me? Some of you are like, I don't know how. So creation recognizes its Redeemer, not just in the words, but in the glory that he comes because of the breath of life. Adam, the living sanctuary and keeper of time. Adam was not merely the first man, he was the living sanctuary of Yah and the presence that would be within him upon the earth. Fashioned from the dust of the Adamah, yet infused with the very breath of Elohim. Adam became a terrestrial sanctuary, if I could say that. A fusion point where heaven kissed earth, where divine, the Ruach HaKodesh, inhabited the lower realm of life. He was the original tabernacle that not built by the hands of men, but sculpted by the eternal potter to host the radiance of his glory here on the earth. So this mystery unveils the reason that Yeshua is called the last Adam. Just as the first Adam carried the rhythm of Eden within his being, the last Adam holds the mystery of times, and half a times. He's the keeper of the kingdom clock, and within him ticks the eternal rhythm, the divine sequence of redemptive history, measured not by seconds, but by sovereign decrees. So the first Adam was entrusted with more than a garden. He was the steward of sacred time. He was the first to measure seasons with the rhythm of heaven. What does that mean? That means the seasons on earth to match the covenant calendar in the sky. He was the one to keep that alignment. Very important. He's the first to observe cycles that were woven into the pulse of all of creation. He's the first to interpret the divine encounters within the calendar of intimacy. His very breath moved in harmony with the pulse of the Edenic Creator's calendar, a sacred rhythm woven into the fabric of eternity, where each breath was a song of intimacy with Yahweh, and in that radiant, unfallen Eden. So time was not broken, it was whole, wholly woven with absolute glory. I don't even know how to say it. The present was not some moment that was fleeting away, but a living window into the eternal realm, the infinite, a realm where the eternal kissed the temporal without sorrow or separation. This is why we see the scripture says, kiss the Son lest he be angry. In other words, to kiss means to desire. You see, heaven and earth, heaven desired to be one with earth. Earth is like the wife, heaven is like the husband. Let's move along. This prophetic cry of Matthew 24, 1-2, as I said earlier, was a judicial declaration. And this is just still, this right here what Messiah said. Not one stone shall be left upon another. This was not the observation of some rabbi. It was the verdict of the King of Kings. Heaven's supreme judge issued a divine decree. The Levitical architecture, once glorious back in the days of Solomon and the tabernacle of Moses, had become corrupted, defiled by a counterfeit priesthood and political idolatry. To all Torah observant and Sabbath keepers, not all, but many, we see it on Facebook, you have made politics an idol. You are defending things you don't know the totality of. We are not to defend presidents. You never saw Yeshua defending Caesar. Yeah, he said, render unto Caesar what is Caesar, but unto Elohim what is his. That's not defending Caesar. That's keeping Caesar away. But you have a lot of people idolizing politics today. President Trump, President Obama, President Biden, all this stuff, idolizing and getting upset, missing the more important things about doing one thing, occupy until I come. Don't get involved in all that stuff. You can say what you're going to say and maybe comment on something, but don't be so ingrained as I'm a Trump supporter. Be a Trump supporter. Go for it. I'm a kingdom supporter. Someone asked me, who'd you vote for? I never voted in my life because I'm smart. Never. When I was younger, I was not that smart. But I'm glad I didn't do it when I was 18. And as I got older, in my mind, I knew it was like, that's like a game. I don't want nothing to do with that. It's not called an election. It's called a selection. Your vote don't count, but to just categorize you. Let me just keep moving forward, because here I am talking about that. In the generations after the flood, and even more so in our time now, there's an echo. There's like this urgency. Why? Because time is accelerating now. We were looking at it, I was like, man, it's already 9:30? The days feel short, and scientists grope for language to explain what the Spirit already knows. Time is not evolving, it is unraveling. Time is dying because death has not yet been dethroned. But when death's dominion is fully exhausted, the restoration of all things shall thunder forth, and the reign of sacred time will be reborn, not in the first Adam, but in the last Adam, Yeshua, who governs time from eternity. Time is his gift to us. We all have 24 hours, right? What are we doing with it? We've all been given the same gift. We've all been given the same amount of time to sleep, the same amount of time to eat, the same amount of time to do something. We've all been given the same amount of time. It's a gift. What are we doing with it? Yeshua said, not one stone will be left upon another. The temple stones were witnesses to a broken covenant. I'm going to say that again. The stones of that temple system where there was no presence and no artifacts in there, because they were hidden during the days of Jeremiah. That whole system, those stones were witnesses to a broken covenant. And Yeshua, the cornerstone, rejected. That's how you know that the covenant was broken. They rejected the chief cornerstone of the covenant, not of the temple. The chief cornerstone is the chief corner, the chief foundational stone of the covenant. This was not just the end of a building, it was the collapse of a system. The Levitical priesthood, having rejected the anointed one, was weighed in the balance and found wanting. The shadow was being removed because the substance had come, and that system of the Levitical order was corrupt at that time. The impostor lineage, cloaked in religious authority. I got to say something. I heard a religious leader saying, just because they were corrupt doesn't mean that that system is undone. If that thing is corrupt, the presence of the Most High is not in it. And we've seen through history, that's why the goats returned to Jerusalem. Why? The presence was not in there. For 40 years it kept coming. Well, maybe next year number 1. Or just give that goat a chance. Don't be so hard on him. Next year we'll give you a chance. Okay, mijo? You come back next year. 40 years of this stuff. Because the presence was not there. It was rejected. And in its place rises an incorruptible kingdom governed not by temporary rituals, but by the eternal dominion of the Melkhitzedek priesthood, whose king is seated in the highest heavens, whose blood speaks better things, and whose return will reset the rhythm of the entire universe, however you want to call it, back to the Kadosh design that it was intended to be. I'm going to have to skip stuff here. I already knew it. I need to talk about this. In Daniel chapter 9, verse 27, I've said this before. I find it very interesting that that Hebrew word, shvit, you'll see it just, this is my take on it. I've seen other places where it does mean for something to stop. But if you read one of the Hebrew dictionaries, the Hebrew etymological dictionary, that word shvit, well, here it's yashvit. That means there's an action of a Hebrew verb put there of an action of causing something. That Hebrew word shavit is an actual Hebrew word in the Hebrew etymological dictionary, and it means to cause something to return. So I'd rather lean on this Hebrew scholar as opposed to a Strong's Concordance, because this is older. I'd rather lean on that. And when you insert the yud, I could be wrong, but I was looking at some grammar. When you insert the yud in that, you can jump to the parent root, the 2-letter root, which is shuv, which means to return. So the system that Daniel's talking about in Daniel chapter 9, verse 27, is a system that is going to emerge again. It's going to be reinstituted again. And in the midst of that, watch the connection, what I'm about to tell you, when it comes to that. We're in exile, right? We're in exile, right? Some of your minds went into exile for a second. We're in exile, we are. Don't fight it, you're in exile, okay? Keep that in mind. We are in exile. I'm here with you guys. That's why I'm acting kind of goofy. We're in exile. We can act a little goofy when we get in exile. I want you to follow me, though. Where are you at? Here we go. So this word, yashbit, has the action, the yud, an arm attached to it, meaning it's causing there's a cause taking place that will produce an effect in a moment. So the action of causing something to return that was dormant. This is the cause, and the effect will wind up being the aftermath of this altar sacrificial system happening again. They just sacrificed the red heifer, okay? From Texas. Watch this. Now, on page 2527 of Reuben Alcalay's Hebrew dictionary, I love his dictionary, this Hebrew word, shvit, is defined in a unique way that I couldn't find anywhere else. I said, oh my goodness. Shavit is not just meaning the return of something, but it is also the Hebrew word for the exiles in captivity. Check it out for yourself. So could it be that this system that will emerge again will bring into captivity many that have been in exile because of the deception that's happening on the Temple Mount? If you can get the exiles to go with the status quo, then you can start up that sacrificial system again, begin with animal sacrifice, and then put them on the altar. Read Revelation 5, all those who were murdered under the altar in Jerusalem. That's the entire Temple Mount, is the entire altar system. How were they slaughtered? Maybe Daniel 9:27 is hinting at something. And we've been fooled by it, thinking that has to go. Don't talk about that altar. I'm going to talk all about that corrupted stuff. There's only one altar we're to reverence now, and is the altar of the Messiah. Because redemption, atonement, forgiveness, and the penalty of death lifted only comes through that altar. That's my focus. The Melkhitzedek order is not temporary or isolated. It is the eternal priesthood established by divine decree. It is seated in heavenly sanctuary, not subject to the decay of time or the rebellion of men. While the kingdom of darkness employs deception, sorcery, and counterfeit wonders to enslave mankind, the true priesthood operates with divine righteousness, covenantal fidelity, and resurrection power. Scripture says in Matthew 24:4 through the mouth of Messiah, "Take heed that no one leads you astray. For the counterfeit priesthood, like the serpent's subtle deceit, mimics divine authority, but is rooted in illegitimacy." Revelation 11:1-2 shows that a true sanctuary remains in the heavens, measured by divine decree, a sign that the true priesthood still operates from the heavenly throne, while earth's religious systems, symbolized by the outer court, are trampled underfoot, fulfilling prophetic judgment. This is what Matthew 24 is talking about. Like I said, it's just an outline for today. This is a divine courtroom in action. Heaven's decree is establishing the supremacy of the Melchizedek. When Yeshua declared, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by the prophet Daniel, he was not offering a casual warning, you guys. Hey, heads up, because, the abomination of desolations, he's like right around the corner. He was giving us a powerful, powerful admonition and warning. He was sounding a trumpet of divine alarm. He pointed directly to Daniel 9:27, where the sacred is defiled, the covenant trampled, and the Kadosh HaKadoshim, the Holy of Holies, the most set-apart place, is desecrated by blasphemous intrusion. This is no mere political event. This is Mystery Babylon's invasion, a spiritual hijacking, an unveiling of the ultimate counterfeit, a throne not ordained by heaven, a priesthood not called by Yah, and sacrifices that reek of rebellion. It is the rise of an illegitimate priesthood cloaked in signs and wonders, speaking lies in the name of prophecy, offering bloodless altars void of repentance. Behold, this abomination's not only religious, but economic. It is financed by the currency of the beast, a digital deception, AI-driven crypto sorcery, a system forged in the image of the dragon. This is why the real money of the people of the Most High is silver and gold. Yep. We've got to cut. People will be like, well, we can use that crypto. So go ahead and do what you're going to do. The money of the Most High is silver and gold. Just ask Joseph back in Egypt. It's a system forged in the image of the dragon. This is not kingdom wealth. Cryptocurrency is not kingdom wealth. It's man-made. Nothing backing it. This is not the silver and gold of covenant kings and Melchizedek priests. This is the money of manipulation, of control, of surveillance. A currency that brands the soul, not just the hand or forehead. Watch what I bring out later on when I'm up here again. I'm going to point and prove from the mark of the beast, there's Greek terminology in there, and there's a Greek word they left out that's in actual parchment. That Greek word now is recognized, that's cryptocurrency, connected to a mark of a beast system. Imagine that. There's coming a time, listen to this prophetic word, half of the world, if I could say, I'm just going to do it like that, will be operating in the beast system, which is here already, under crypto and all this other stuff, right? And then there's going to be the kingdom people just before the coming of Messiah that will be flourishing with silver and gold and provisions for the community people. Light and darkness. You see twos everywhere, two different priesthood, Jacob and Esau, Isaac and Ishmael. You see this prophet. You see this. Surveillance. So mark these words. What is rising is not just a financial reset, but a false atonement. Listen to what I'm saying. Funded by a beast, administered by Babylon, and designed to replace the economy of heaven with the economics of hell. Some strong language, huh? But those who belong to the eternal kingdom will not be deceived. They trade in silver refined 7 times, and gold that has been tested in the fire. They are priests of righteousness, keepers of the true treasury, sons and daughters of the Most High, who know that the wealth of the wicked will be shaken, and only what is forged in covenant will endure. Deuteronomy 8:18, I have given you the power, the makoach, the mind, to obtain wealth so that you can go live like a fat elite. No, so you can further the covenant of my kingdom for my people. Free my people up that are in bondage. Joseph, you are responsible to discern the famine coming. And you, Joseph, are responsible to say, I have the divine plan to preserve my people. And in preserving my people, there will be those who are in the beast system that will come out saying that salvation is over here. We need to follow them. God, Abba is using Joseph. Joseph, where are you at? Many of you are insecure in your minds, or some of you are insecure in your minds. You don't see yourself even stepping forward to tell people about the blessing you're a part of. Stand up. The greater one lives in you. Tell people, hey, you know what? There is a wealth transfer here, a prophetic wealth transfer. And let me tell you about it. This is starting to change my life. And here's what we're doing. Tell them this is a prophetic wealth open door. Really, it really is. I could already hear it now. Oh, man, he's starting to talk about money. No, I'm not. I'm talking about kingdom wealth. I ain't talking about money. I'm talking about kingdom wealth. This counterfeit kingdom is a carefully staged courtroom coup, an illegal attempt to seize divine sovereignty. This is what Satan has been after since the beginning. That's why he said, did Elohim really say? It seeks to seat itself upon the throne of the Most High, which will never happen, to declare itself as the ultimate priesthood, which will never happen, and to impose its false sacrifices and lies upon the nations, which has happened, with a sense of false peace and false hope that will not attach itself to us. And in Revelation 11, it unveils a divine counterstroke. 2 prophetic witnesses that I mentioned earlier stand up. They're embodying the Melkhitzedek authority. I cannot believe this. You know that someone literally told me that I was one of the witnesses years ago because my name's John. First, the conversation was, let me make it quick, is they were one of the witnesses. And I said, who's the other one? They both looked at one of them was the witness. They looked at each other. I said, who's the other witness? I'm being sarcastic now. They just didn't catch it. They thought I was being sincere, like, who's the other witness? I already knew this is the most foolish thing in the world I'm hearing right now. They said, you are. I was like, I had it. This is it. I guarantee you I'm not. Just because my name's John, yeah, I was like, you guys know. But anyways, when the real 2 witnesses arrive, it's a game changer. Their authorities rooted in the same divine courtroom that judged the counterfeit priesthood, now issuing decrees through the heavenly Melchizedek priesthood that is clothed in power. This is the clash of kingdoms. The counterfeit priesthood seeks to establish its dominion, but divine justice embodied in the Melchizedek witnesses advances with power and authority from the throne. Matthew 24:12 warns of a lawlessness, in Greek it's anomia, which signifies not just rebellion, but the rejection of a divine authority and the chosen covenant order. It is the spirit of Antichrist seeking to dethrone Yeshua as the Melchizedek high priest. Daniel 9:24 describes the coming of the Messiah to complete divine missions, to end transgression, bring righteousness, and establish an everlasting kingdom. These divine acts are a direct challenge to the counterfeit priesthood. An order rooted in lawlessness, deception, and rebellion is what the Messiah is coming against. The divine courtroom is active. Accusations are made. Decrees are issued during this time of Matthew 24. Listen. And the true Melchizedek priesthood is rising in power to enforce divine righteousness. The counterfeit priesthood, rooted in darkness, seeks to rewrite the order of the royal priesthood. But divine justice will overthrow all rebellion that has emerged. In this unfolding revelation in Matthew 24, the righteous order of Yeshua as the Melchizedek priest king is the only true authority. Unshakable foundation of everlasting righteousness. And the counterfeit seeks to establish lawlessness, Torahlessness, rebellion against covenant. But the divine courtroom is bringing justice, sealing the victory of divine righteousness. Period. And in conclusion, the destruction of the earthly temple, you guys, was not the collapse of sacred space. It was a heavenly eviction notice. Did you hear what I said? The Levitical priesthood, bound by a temporary reprieve, was divinely dismantled. This was not the end, but the inauguration of a new and eternal government that would come forth, a coronation from above. The Melchizedek high priest Yeshua was enthroned not in stone courts built by men, but in the heavenly courtroom where the ark is no longer veiled and the verdict of eternity echoes without challenge. Daniel's vision didn't terminate in exile or in mourning. It pointed toward an everlasting righteousness, sealed by blood, not of bulls, but of the Lamb who is enthroned. This prophecy finds its fulfillment not in ritual repetition, but in the irreversible rise of the Melchizedek priesthood. No one can stop it. Unshaken by time, empowered by mercy, and wielded the scepter of divine justice. So as Matthew 24 unveils, Yeshua pierces time. He pierces space and he annuls sacrifice, weaving Daniel's sealed scroll into an open decree of heavenly dominion. So Matthew 24, it's no mere prediction of some chaotic event. That's not what it's about. It's the unsealing of heaven's judicial scroll that Revelation 5 reflects. It is the divine courtroom's transcript where priesthoods are judged, systems are weighed and found wanting, and the eternal governance of Yeshua is decreed across this world. Earth groans, kingdoms convulse, and temples fall, but heaven rises in majesty, enthroning the one whose priesthood knows no successor. Revelation confirms the outcome. The kingdoms of this world have become the kingdom of our Master and of his Messiah. Revelation 11:15. The dominion shifts. The Levitical veil is torn and the heavenly throne is unveiled for all to see. And the heavenly courtroom thunders in its eternal decree that Yeshua reigns. And with him, the righteous remnant, sealed and sanctified by his blood, shall reign in the authority of his unshakable order. This is the transfer of all priesthood power and sacred place. The Melchizedek priesthood ascends. The courtroom rules and dominion is his. The end of the age, you guys, is not about chaos. It's the courtroom of heaven making the decree. I'm going to end with these verses in Matthew 24, 11 through 14. and many false prophets will emerge, and I will cause many to go astray. That will cause many to go astray. And because lawlessness shall have been multiplied, the love of many will grow cold. The love of many will grow cold. The agape, the ahava, you know, the love that is tied to covenant relationship. What goes on in the world, and also these false prophets, have the ability for those who give ear to that and what they see, for their love to grow cold. That means their obedience in serving the Father grows cold. That's called Korah. But the one who endures to the end will be saved. And this good news of the kingdom shall be preached in all the earth for a testimony to all the men. Then the end will come. Father, we thank you for your word. Abba, we thank you for what the Messiah has spoken in Matthew chapter 24. And Father, as this brief outline has gone forth, prepare us for the sessions in the future at your bidding, to prepare us for the times that are upon us now, even more so. In the mighty name of Yeshua, amen. Shabbat shalom.
Come on, give Abba praise.